Hello.
Hey, hello. Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Pretty well. Still getting started after the holidays. But I saw you and Marco did a lot of work.
Yeah, mostly Marco. I had some issues with Visual Studio that I haven't noticed when I installed the resources for the code analyzers, but they messed up a bit with my framework. I had to do a repair on Visual Studio actually.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Because of the plugins that you created.
I think when I installed the extra things to let me write the code analyzer, something was overwritten in the test adapter package because it required another runtime version.
Hey, Brian.
Hello.
Hey.
It looks like it's hot out there.
Yeah, it's pretty warm. Got the AC on.
And there we have Kenneth.
Yeah, if it offends people, I can put another shirt on.
Nah, it's just it looks sunny. And Kenneth is gone. So let's see. I will show my screen in a second. All right. Hey, Kenneth, are you there?
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yes, good.
Okay, now I can. So let's get started. Share a screen. Just my main screen. Yep, share. Very good. So guys, I just came back from holidays for a week, so I am a bit dependent on what happened for last week from an email by Marco that he sent me this morning. But basically, I'd say the work over the past week has been API work. Performance improvements for version 1.2, which is now in that I haven't seen yet. It's still in beta, but we're gonna make beta 2, 3, 4, and so on, depending on what we find. And bug fixes for 1.1. That's basically, I think, what happened. I think, Georgia, what do you reckon from last week? You were there.
Yeah, I don't know if the bug fixes are only for 1.1.
Yeah, I have a stack of pull requests here.
Yeah.
And these are for 1.1, so we do our normal process of integrating them and then merging them into DS2 3 and 4, and then merging them again to 1.2. This is quite a lot of, for now, it's quite a lot of bookkeeping. Now we have 1.1 and 1.2 beta alive at the same moment. It's a lot of merging across, but luckily Git helps us do that. But done. So performance and bug fixes. Okay, need to do PRs for the bug fixes, and then merge them to STU3, R4, and 1.2. And then the same thing to STU3, R4. Otherwise, yeah, we did quite some, because now the R4 library was used in our own products, so like Vonk and I think even Simplifier. We did get some extra testing, found some more bugs, and fixed them. So that's about that. I think an interesting discussion we will have that came up this week is that the amount of bookkeeping we have to do to just to do these kind of bug fixes is getting quite a lot. I think in one of the things that came up last week is that Michel has fixed bugs in the snapshot generators for STU3 and R4. And I think he more or less refuses to port them back to the STU2. So that pushes the point that we have been avoiding so far. And when are we going to say DSTU2 is going to go into, let's say, hotfix only maintenance mode? And I wouldn't mind if you, Brian and Kenneth, could run that in your minds and think about what that would mean for you.
I'd be perfectly happy with it.
Yeah, no issues with it here either.
So let's call that maintenance. Now maintenance, bug fix, hotfix.
Actually, before I say that, maybe which version are you planning on leaving that at 1.2 when that gets cut?
Yeah.
Or 1.1? Yeah.
No. We're not that much in a hurry. I want to leave. Cool. I want to leave a well-maintainable and stable version.
Yeah.
So I'll put that down, Brian. Yeah, or we can even say, I don't know, because it's really, you know, we're just wrapping our minds around it ourselves. Maybe even stopping the STU2 from 2.x, but it's for sure that I mean, I know that there's already some fixes not done to the snapshot generator in DSTU2. But the question is, yeah, no one reports problems about that, because you might wonder how many people are actually using intensively still profiling DSTU2. It's probably not a whole lot of people.
Yeah, we've turned off, so we don't have the profile validation down there. In our DSTU2 version, we only have that invariant stuff.
Yeah.
So I think my server's probably stuck somewhere even ahead of that. Earlier than that. That's our own cut anyway, so I'm not too stressed.
So the one reason I kept on maintaining it is that, of course, Apple is using it in their product.
Yeah.
But I also realized that the DSTU2 client, that's what most people will use to access that data, just works. So yeah, how much, you know, if we do hotfixes only, that's probably about it.
Yeah.
Nice. We'll discuss this again in the US call.
Yep.
And just let our minds run over it a little bit. We're not in a hurry to kill it, but it would save us considerable time that we better spend on new features, maintaining DSTU2.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Then the action items. An experimental run on code generation of an unknown code in all enums. Did you have time?
Not yet.
Not yet. Pull out the web API stuff from the repo. I'm pretty sure that's that done.
Yep, so that's done. I think I had a brief chat with Kenneth last time after the last call. There's some more changes coming through on that. So I've gotten our internal stuff pushed across into that as well. I haven't pushed it up. I've been working on it today. And I've started trying to bring my web API code and ASP.NET code into line. So that's where I'm sort of stuck, having one model that you can use whether you're picking the ASP.NET or the web API stuff.
So is it now actually, does it also mean that the code is no longer in the repo? Or it was deleted, of course. It's always in the repo. You can't really remove anything in Git, but...
Yeah, so I've pushed it to that new location, so that's there.
Yep.
I've got a couple more changes to push up. I haven't deleted it out of the current branches yet.
Okay.
So I'm perfectly happy to go and do that.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay. Luke will have to report on that next one.
He has done that. I believe he's okay with it.
Okay.
It surprised me.
Yeah. It surprised me too. It could well be. I saw about 30 to 40 emails about all things going on in the FHIR API, but I hadn't had time to read it yet.
Yeah. You may even have a pull request for that.
Woo.
But anyway, I'm pretty sure he was okay with it.
No, not yet, but that's okay. Okay, next item, the targeted meeting to discuss the differences for the web API. So I'm struggling a bit with this one because I know that originally we wanted to see with the Microsoft guys and basically Kenneth and Brian to see if we could make some kind of universal, and maybe the Von guys too, by the way. Discuss this different interfaces. Is my recollection correct? Is that and if yes, is now the right time to schedule this meeting?
I think so, unless Kenneth, you wanted to have a chat with me ahead of that and have a look through the stuff once I get this push done.
Yeah, that would actually be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Maybe we'll do that and then touch base on the next call to see if we want to schedule that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe can I ask one or the two of you to set up that meeting then?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the well, the last action item is delayed. So yeah, that's basically it.
You want to pass out of the meeting the contact for who the other Microsoft folk are we need to get in?
Yeah, so that's I will do that. I have an action item. I will.
Yeah. Don't take it, Christian's the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yep.
Perfect.
So that's finding work. I might even see if Michelle Mattoni wants to join.
Is that someone working with you?
No, the
Oh, Michel Mottini. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I might reach out to him. He's the other contributor.
Michaela. What is his exact name? I don't know actually. Oh gosh, editing in GitHub is horrible. We knew that while doing a screen share, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's that. I was thinking about, are there any other items? Georgia, do you have to report something new to report on the Common Code project?
Yeah, I finalized the logic for checking the version that the user is using when writing code. And I'm a bit worried about the performance of the code analyzer.
Ah.
But last week I switched on bug fixes and I haven't done much on that.
It's interesting because when you look through the documentation of the code analyzers, there's a lot of things like if you put code here, the code analyzer will run very slowly. So it's probably very picky.
Yeah.
So I think, George, to what I remember that what you were doing was, so you all remember that George was writing this analyzer that detects whether you are in the common code, you are using features that are available in newer versions of FHIR, but not yet in the version you are using. So you're working in DSU3 and you're using an R4 feature. And what Georgia had to figure out is how does the analyzer know which version of FHIR you are using? And so, George, what you did is you will basically check the references, huh? So
yeah.
At compile time, you check which libraries are referenced, and if that are 2 and 3, depending on that, you change the behavior of the warnings.
Yeah, and at every change in the code, basically we take all the references, we filter them, and then we check the attribute if it exists on the element.
Yeah. So the analyzer looks at the references to detect the version of FHIR used. And if you use multiple versions of FHIR, what's our behavior?
I put all the FHIR versions in a list, and then I check the attribute on the element, see what starting version, ending version, and excluded versions it has.
Yeah.
And then I do a filter on the list of FHIR versions that I found in its references.
Right. And does every element need a starting version attribute, or is this, if it does not have an element, it's available in all versions, or what do we do?
No, this attribute will be only on the elements that are distinct on different versions.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, which in practice means everything that is new after DSU2, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Has that been pushed yet?
Sorry?
Has that been pushed yet?
No, not yet.
There is a
code separation branch.
There is a branch where you could take a look if you want, Brian.
Yeah, but the code analyzer is not there yet. Yeah, the code analyzer will be a different package.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, the analyzer will be packaged as a separate NuGet package, but we'll put it in our source. It's part of the source anyway. And where is it now then? Is it just on your machine, Georgia?
Yeah, I can make a commit to it.
I mean, if your machine crashes tomorrow, then we lose it or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just see if you can integrate it with it, because you do have a branch where you're working on with this with this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'll put this on an action item for you. Oh shit! This is so slow.
That's why I used to do Notepad.
Yeah, that's why I used to do Notepad. I was like, it should be fixed. No, it's still not fixed. Georgia will commit the code for the Sorry. Oh, my Notepad. That happens sometimes. It's outside my screen. I know there is a trick. What was it again? Right click. Yeah. No. Yeah. Move. Move it here. Something like this.
Is profiled quantity is an interesting one. Because that's going to have different behaviors between 2, 3, and 4.
I think we are limiting ourselves to the stuff we need to support a resource. So that's really only source, I think. And the meta.
Introspection, class mapping.
Oh, yeah. That's those things. Georgia has fixed in another way, because that's something that we can still. I don't know exactly remember how we did it, but
we had to replace the model inspector.
Yeah.
And I used the class mapping for that.
I think it would be interesting. I mean, all of this, remember, all of the common code that George's been doing so far is more like inventory, making an inventory of problems we will encounter. Yeah. So I think at one point we will say, okay, now we know, now we can start for real. And and then do it as a series of pull requests so we can all take a look at what happened. I think this requires multiple eyes.
Yeah.
So don't worry about this being a big pull request that will just be applied next week or so. We're not nearly there. This is just looking at, can we do it? And I think slowly we're solving the problems, and I'm getting more and more confident that we can do it. Okay, so my Notepad doesn't want to show up. I'll just use Visual Studio Code then.
So what's right now in the common project, it's everything that I had to use to move to get the project successfully built. And what we assume that we could easily put there, even if there were differences between versions.
Yeah.
And currently, that is you're pretty ambitious, right? You have actually put all the data types in common, or not?
Yeah.
We could be even less. Well, we could, for sure. I think we should start smaller than that, and then slowly increase the base after we've stabilized and seen that it worked. We could even make small steps by doing base and any and extendable and all these abstract interfaces first. That should definitely work, and then see what happens. So that's what I would say. Next real steps is probably start by isolating base any extendable. Well, I don't know exactly what it was. And have a separate project, Barrett project, with a separate project just to see what we encounter in this. So, but basically, for the last 2 weeks, I asked George to focus with Marco on the bug fixes. So the Common Code project has been sleeping a little bit.
Cool.
Well, I think that's more or less it, unless someone else has more things to discuss.
Unless someone wanted to, with the .NET Core versus full version with the Web API stuff, one of the issues I've encountered trying to make an independent model set is the dependency injector is different in ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core. So trying to use the same thing across that has become sort of an interesting problem.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried to deal with something like that before? No.
No.
The only one I would say is Christian.
Yeah.
Because he has a full server like you, Brian, and I know that he's got dependency injection everywhere.
Yeah, but I think he's all full net core, isn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have a problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I might just keep having a bit of a mess around with it and see if I can get it any further. If not, doesn't matter. No loss.
Yeah. It's hard to make it work across framework or and core because ASP.NET uses a different dependency injection.
Yeah. High dependency source and high dependency resolver and iService provider.
And they're incompatible and not easy to mask away, I guess, behind some kind of interface. That's really hard, I think.
You have to do something, and then it's because of the way they all mess with each other, it's going to get weird. So I started trying to just create a use a generic, so I don't need to know what it is, and let the usage determine which to use, but it's looking really hideous.
Yeah.
So I was one of my next steps is to back that out and then try the annotation approach that you've done and shove it in the class, but it's not really in the class. So, I don't know. I'll keep experimenting.
Yeah, if you want, maybe we can maybe next time if you can have you can show us some code.
Yeah.
What's the problem, and we could maybe share some brain cells and see if we can help you more concretely with this.
Yeah, I think I've just sort of had the first pass across it today, and it's just not looking right. So,
no, so you're going to try again, yeah. As a solution that he does not like at all.
Yeah.
We'll try again, and would like to show us next time. Okay.
And actually, well, I've got you there. So the assembly names was going to be, I was tossing up between hl7.fire.netcore.api.stu3 and hl7.fire.webapi.stu3. They have those two names.
I'm going to type them both. Okay. Can you mention those again? HL7.
So FHIR, HL7.FHIR.netcore API .stu3 netcore API.
Oh, this is one word, yeah?
Yep, .stu3.
Yeah.
And another one. So HL7.FHIR.webapi.stu3.
.webapi.stu3. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think of those as the NuGet package names?
I like the latter.
Because one of them's going to be the ASP.NET Core, and the other one's your full MVC Web API project.
Is that for one? Is that suggestions for one assembly, or is that two assemblies?
Two assemblies. So one that supports the ASP.NET Core, and the other one that supports the full .NET framework with the Web API.
Ah, you don't package them as one assembly. No, no, you couldn't, huh? No, you couldn't. No. Then you're gonna have a lot of packages there, Brian. Platforms times DSU2 versions times platforms. That's a nasty product.
Yeah. So I'm only putting the effort into the Web API one versus the NetCore API one, because the Web API version is what's in SQL on FHIR at the moment, or a variation on, and it's what I wrote first. And the NetCore API is the new port that I've done, and we've got live in some other facade stuff. So I wasn't planning on continuing to do that forever.
No.
But as we move forward, sort of want to come up with the multi-version facade support stuff in there as well. So it becomes one package.
And so for you, does the word Web API signal the old version and NetCore API the new version, or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I also would, I think, just like Kenneth,
I could say NetCore Web API.
Yeah, and what about stuff like, I would make it secondary, maybe, I don't know, like this. Can you have Web API, which is the main product that you want people to use, and Web API dot, I don't know, stu3.legacy or something like that? Or is that too, it's not descriptive enough, maybe?
Yeah, because it's really wanting to say which one of those two. Well, have a think about it. If anything jumps out at you and says this is obviously what it should be, yeah, nothing has yet. So. And my common project name, since we're talking naming, I've currently called .webapi.models, and all that's in it is a set of interfaces and utility and support classes.
It's HL7.FHIR.
webapi.models. And now that I've said that out aloud, it would feel better to call it support, because it's really all the common stuff that's independent of which tech. It actually does the same thing as the FHIR path, where it's got the full framework and the net core stuff in the same project.
Yeah, so it seems to me that Web API is the general name you want to keep as a moniker, and you want to so Web API in fact is going to be, say if 2 years from now, Web API assembly actually is the .NET Core API technically, and .web API is more the name, the functional name of it. So that's why I think I would make the distinction between NetCore and what's a good label for the old framework?
I'll keep wandering through it and see as I go through if something else falls out. If I can actually achieve the one package with both in it. So if you add it into a full framework, it does one, and if you add it into the other one, it does the other. That'd be even cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now we're talking about these multiple frameworks, and is that maybe you've seen in the API that in the API the unit test projects were all NetCore app to one, I think. They used to be Net Framework, but then we said, well, why do we test on Net Framework? We test them on NetCore app. There's a problem there. .NET profiling doesn't work on NetCore app. You can't profile your unit test on NetCore app, so I'm reverting that stuff back to framework. So those are sometimes those nasty.
Yeah.
I don't know if the new Visual Studio will fix it, but
yes, you're right.
And then I will just use .NET framework. What is it? 4.7.2 or so?
Yeah.
Is that the latest? Yeah. There's no point in having using older framework for testing. So,
no.
This works well enough. Okay. I guess we will just as I told you last time, we decided on not hurrying too much and getting everyone some mileage with the beta libraries before we move on. And that's probably what we'll continue to do for the next 2 weeks till the next call.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right then. Thanks for your input, and we'll talk again in 2 weeks.
Yep.
No worries. And it's going to be a morning like the US time, right?
Yeah, that's on US time.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
I may or may not see you then.
We'll see. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.